Good morning. I just had a little side note. So I got this book, The Blithedale Romance by Nathaniel Hawthorne, because he wrote this book as a fiction book, but it was based on his experience in the the Brook Farm commune, which was just one of the experiments in communal living I'm finding out during the 1800s. Because for the most part, people were fed up in the 1800s with the industrialization of America, and a lot of the stuff that was happening back then. So I just wanted to read this part. So decades saw a proliferation of experimental socialist communities and increasingly organized public activism directed at correcting a host of perceived evils and social ills. The Great Financial Panic of 1837 had shut banks, closed off credit, and caused many smaller farmers to lose their holdings. So this is describing the background of Hawthorne and Emerson and the Transcendentalists. I had no idea there was a great financial panic of 1837. In the ensuing depression, which lasted into the 1840s, thousands of acres of Hawthorne's native New England were abandoned or sold off as summer resorts to wealthy industrialists from Boston and New York. Yeah, surprised? A newly dispossessed rural population moved into the cities and factory towns, joining there with recently arrived European immigrants to form an underclass of urban poor. By the 1840s, the sight of small children begging in the streets of major urban centers was no longer unusual. At the same time, a rapidly developing industrialization made possible by a technology forged of steam and iron was changing the face of what had formerly been a self-consciously agrarian nation. Yeah. So, the illusion we have of America being just independent farmers and the independent Americans. While the bulk of the population remained on the land, by the 1840s there was a demonstrable centripetal movement toward the town, the city, and the factory. Although the image had largely been an illusion, the nation's image of itself as a land of independent yeoman farmers was quickly being eroded by the reality of a ruthless market economy and the exploitation of wage laborers in the cities and factory towns. And I got riled up when I read that, because that is the reality of America, So in response, Americans were gripped by a wave of anti-urbanism that lasted until the eve of the Civil War. The unprecedented accumulation of money and capital in the hands of a powerful few, the new technology, city tenements, overcrowded factory towns, and callous public institutions were all blamed as the causes of urban poverty, increased crime, and general moral decay. So all across the country, independent communities, generally organized around agriculture instead of manufacturing, were formed according to various idealistic blueprints for social and economic harmony. The Brook Farm Commune was only one such experiment. So, I mean, there's a lot to learn from the 1840s. And really, so this morning, I hardly go to Walmart, but this morning I went to Walmart, which is down the street from me, to get some cat food. And yeah, all around you see America's 250th anniversary Oreo cookies and America's 250th anniversary flavored popcorn and America's 250th anniversary hot dogs, whatever crap they want to market. And yeah, isn't that funny? Walmart is so patriotic. There's all these companies are so patriotic, aren't they? That you can get a 250th anniversary Oreo cookie and really feel good about being an American. So really, what I learned from what I read this morning is that you know, all these Americans getting pumped up about being an American, and it's just, being an American is ridiculous. It's one big illusion. It's one big illusion. And really the history of America, the history of our country is the history of the billionaires and the millionaires that have profited off this country. I mean, obviously naming the Rockefeller family, who basically have controlled every aspect of our country. Really, you could say the history of America is the history of the Rockefeller family. They own the education system. That's why it's such shit. They own the pharmaceuticals. They own the oil, or they got a foothold into it at least. I'm pretty sure they don't still own it, but yeah. So I don't know. That's my rant. And to me we have, like I've always said, we have to understand history. We don't even know what happened in the 1800s. We don't. Sad to say. So anyways, that's my little rant.